Hey everyone, hello Les. Welcome to a rainy, nasty John Wayne Airport, KSNA. I was originally going to do this flight in A2A's wonderful Piper Comanche, which I just bought, and having taken 2 circuits around the airport in beautiful weather, I decided what better than to do a hand-flown instrument procedure in a brand new unfamiliar plane. And I did it, and it was so unbelievably bad that the only thing I could think of to do was mine it for comic relief and call it the first in a new series I was going to post called Idiots in Planes Doing Stupid Things, sort of like comedians in cars getting coffee, only instead of getting coffee it would be doing the awful, egregious, stupid comic, whatever you want to call it, in an airplane. And I thought, well, that would be good for yucks. And on second thought, just about a second and a half before hitting publish on YouTube, it really struck me that for all the bitching that I do and all the nitpicking that I do of people posting here and flying here, the least I could do was try to do better myself, bearing in mind that I am not instrument rated. I'm not even a private pilot. I'm simply getting ready to start studying for my PPL, and I don't know much except fake flying. But before we go further, let me just jump in the cockpit here. Let's get out of the rain. So anyway, here we are. Instead of flying the Comanche, which I'm unfamiliar with, we'll fly the Majestic -8, which I'm pretty familiar with. I'm still not the world's greatest at hand flying instrument procedures or flying anything raw data, but that's exactly what we're going to try to do today. Really quickly, what we're going to do is this. We're going to fly a truncated Channel 2 departure from runway 20 right. We will not use the FMS. We will not use DME. We will try to do this the oldest of old-fashioned ways, the way you would do it in a Comanche or a Cherokee or something like that. We will tune in Nav 2 to Seal Beach. We'll tune in Nav 1 to the localizer, which we'll be coming back to, and we will use the radials as our guides, which, I mean, we should know how to do, heaven knows. And we will fly runway heading till the 118 radial. We'll turn left at 177. We'll fly that till the 132 radial. We'll turn right to 202, and then we'll intercept the 264 of Santa Catalina. And instead of following the SID out to one of the exit points, we'll instead hook a right, fly essentially downwind, and then we will enter the Seal Beach entry point to the ILS 20 right. We'll hit Seal Beach, we'll go outbound on the 049 radial, and then we'll perform a parallel entry into this hold around Sager. So we'll fly outbound at 016, we'll hook a left, we'll re-intercept here, we will fly inbound until the 049, and then we will make a right turn. We'll do one loop around the hold, and then we will fly the ILS in. And instead of using DME to determine our step-down points, we will, if I'm not too task-saturated, or if I can still see the instruments instead of the walls of my own rectum, we will look for each of these radials as our step-down points. And actually at Lemon, I believe, we will intercept the glide slope and then hand fly on raw data, maybe, the ILS into 20 right, back home again. So without too much further ado, let's just do a quick pre-flight. My bus ties are off, my batteries are on, my generators are on, my heats are all on, my landing light on, taxi light off, rest of my lights on, cockpit lighting is fine, APU is off, bleeds are on and min, which they should be, cabin temperature's fine, signs are on, emergency lights are armed. Let me very, very quickly check my cautions. They're all lit up, and that's all fine. My spoilers are to flight. My my tiller, excuse me, is on. My demists are on. My flaps should be 10. My condition levers max, they are. My caution lights for the parking brake. The parking brake can come off. My throttles work fine. Autopilot should be 7,000 and altitude select on. Flight director on go around, it is. Heading should be 177 is what we will be turning to. After the refreshing my memory, the 118 radial. Nav 1 is tuned to the localizer. Double checking. 11175 and 196. 11175 and 196. Yes, my Nav 2 is Seal Beach 115.7. It is. And my standby is Santa Catalina 1114, and it is. Alright, double checking everything else. Pumps on, PTU on, flaps at 15, auto feather on. Hydraulics, fine. Check the standby. It comes up, it's fine. Turn that off. Battery loads, fine. And breakers are all in. Alright, with that set up, let's go fake flying. As you can see, it's a reasonably crappy day here. Just line up. I haven't set my V speeds because I've been working at this weight for so long I know them from memory. V1 is going to be 111. VR is also 111 because we're not field length limited. Double checking. We are at a 196 heading. And we are thereabouts on the compass, and it says 20 right, and so we're in the right place. Our barometric is 2974, which is as it should be. My acceleration altitude is going to be 1060, at which point I'll pull back the props. My transponder should be on, squawking altitude, and my TCAS should be TARA, although we're not simulating any traffic, so if I run into something, it can only be because of alien abduction. Looks like everything is set to go. My VR is 116, and my VFry is about 145, which is when I can start bringing up the flaps, and my V-climb, best climb on one engine, is about 152. So here we go. Again, we're going to be looking for 118 and then 132. So we will be looking for 118 right there, which is going to be moments after takeoff, and then 132 right here. And so we'll turn first to 177, and then we will turn right to 102. Until then, we'll maintain runway heading, and here we go. And we're stable on the engines. This is an end top takeoff, which is 90% power, 80 knots. V1 and rotate. Trim down a little. Gear up. Looking for 1060 first, and we're looking for 118. And we're almost at 118 right there, so we'll start our turn. We'll maintain this rate of climb. And there we are at 177. We're going to take that until 132. Okay, props come back. And we are getting hammered by this turbulence. Flaps can all come up. We've accelerated so we can pitch back up, and we're past 132, so let's turn standard rate, we hope, or half standard rate since this is an airliner, to 202. And we're going to fly that for just a tad. Again, we are 3,500 climbing 7,000. At this point, we probably would have contacted departure, and they probably would have just given us vectors to Santa Catalina. Speaking of which, we will tune up Santa Catalina in nav2, and we're looking for the 264. And at the moment, I'm going to put the autopilot in and put it in heading select, just briefly, so I can tune our radial here. Flip over to nav2, which is Santa Catalina. You can see we're 27 miles away. And we will tune up the 264 radial, and then we will intercept it. And for one reason or another, the autopilot has decided that it would be a good idea to level us off just above 7,000, and now it's making up for its mistake. Bring the props back to cruise, and in 1 second, as soon as we get ourselves established on a good intercept, which I will do right now, to the 264 radial, we'll do a little bit of quick housekeeping. Very quickly, while we wait for that needle to come in, I'm going to turn bleeds to min. I'm going to turn our lights off because we're in cruise. I'm going to turn our auto feather off and our pumps off. And very quickly get back to business here. And for the moment, at least, I'm going to fly in heading select mode and get myself in a good cruise power and trim myself out. The thing about the dash in real life, and that's realistically modeled in the Majestic, is any change in power, absolutely any, and it demands a change in rudder trim. So we're just waiting for the 264 to come in, and then we will fly that for about 15 miles or so, maybe. Actually, yeah, I guess by the time we intercept, I'm guessing it'll be about 18 and a half, 19 miles. And just for the moment, although I could flip the localizer for 20 right into nav 2. I'm just curious. I want to see if, since these are both now tuned to Santa Catalina, I want as a sanity check and as an SA check, just to see if my RMI and my HSI point to the same station the same way, just so I get a feel for how it behaves, because I've yet to do a lot of this kind of flying, so I'm getting used to it. We're at about 42% torque. We're cruising just below 230, which is fine. We're on altitude, and thankfully we're about 2,000 feet above the worst of the turbulence, which seems to be between 3,500 and 5,500 feet. So I'm not using Active Sky Next at the moment because it's doing all sorts of ugly things on my computer. I'm just using Prepar3d's own weather engine. And let's make this a little bit more of an acute intercept here. I know we could cut it in gently and then intercept at the last minute, but I actually want to get established a little bit early just so I can get some practice flying a radial and be consistent about it. So we're going to turn a little bit more to the south than we ordinarily would, just to bring that, get closer to that radial quicker, and also get established on it further outbound from the station. And here it comes. So we're going to wait till it gets about 1 bar deviation, and then we're going to start our turn to 264. And we're 13 miles out, so that's not bad. Again, in real life, we would probably just be getting vectored here. And I think we'll blow through it just slightly, but that's a fairly reasonable intercept. Just a little through it, not too much. Okay, so we more or less know how to play this game. I'm right now going to just track us inbound, and instead of cheating and looking at the map, I'm going to try and determine what kind of wind we've got blowing us around. The winds aloft have generally been around 15 to 30 knots. And okay, so we're more or less established. And as soon as we get fully established, we will fly this for a few more miles, and then we will fly the heading very briefly, and then go direct Seal Beach. So it looks like we got a little bit of wind from the north, but I'm not sure. Let me double check that. No, it's just coming right on our nose. It's just me not being good about tracking a radial. Let me quickly set a heading and stick to it until we start to come back in on it. And when we're about 2 miles away, we'll just go into heading mode, and we will tune Seal Beach back up into nav 2, and we'll fly direct to it. And since we'll have the benefit of the RMI, the green needle there, tuned to it also, we'll be able to quickly find out what our direct to course is. You can do it by twiddling the knob, obviously, and seeing where it crosses, the CDI crosses over, but the knob on this computer, on this sim itself, is so fiddly, and my mouse wheel is so fiddly, that it's almost impossible to get it right. So, okay, here we go. Let's go into heading select mode briefly, hold this heading, and switch back to Seal Beach for nav 2, and our heading is about 026. We'll switch over to that, and we will change our course more or less to that, and I'm going to guess that that's about where that's going to come in. So to intercept, we'll probably have to set about another 15-20 degrees. Oh no, it's going to be drifting out as we're turning, so we'll make it a standard 30-degree intercept by the time we get around to it. Now, along the way here, on the way to Seal Beach itself, we will start to descend. We'll descend to 4,000, which is the minimum for the beginning of the instrument approach procedure. Just to brief ourselves, we're done with that. We will fly direct, and then we'll fly 49 outbound. We have to be 4,000 until Sager. At Sager, we can be 3,500. We can either descend in the hold, or we can probably just enter the hold at 3,500. I might be inclined to do that for the simple reason that as we re-intercept here and fly direct to Seal Beach, may be inclined to do that simply because I want to be as configured as possible at a busy phase of flight, and it's going to get very busy, and it's when I'm going to start to make stupid mistakes. So I don't want to be task saturated, so I will get configured, believe you me, as early as I possibly can. As we get established inbound here to Seal Beach, thankfully we've got a little ways to go, and you'll forgive me for boring you to tears here. And again, in real life, we get vectored around to Sager. We wouldn't be holding at Sager. If ATC was going to hold us, they would almost certainly hold us someplace else, far away. But at the moment, we're going to fly the full procedure. Just apply a little rudder trim. We're very nicely configured. We're flying this reasonably well. Our speed is fine. Our temps are fine. Everything is relatively copacetic, and so what we'll do is we'll start a nice gentle descent to 4,000. Set out cell, which puts a floor on us. Go into vertical speed mode. Go down at about 700 feet per minute. Come off the throttle just a tad. Maintain our track also and retrim the rudder. At this point, we will turn our pumps and PTU on. We'll check that our GPWS flaps is set fine. It is. We will be down to 4,000 by about 9 miles before Seal Beach, so that's more than plenty of time. We've now got our power set. Oh, here we go. Here comes the turbulence. See? Look at that thing bob around like that. Look at that. Thank you, George. We're at a very nice speed. Our altitude is set fine. We're in turbulence. Fasten seatbelt signs are on. Turn our landing lights on. We are not in any icing. That was one of the idiocies in the Comanche that I almost posted online. I climbed up and hit carburetor icing and almost spun into the sea before I figured it out, belatedly. Alright, we're tracking inbound. We're coming up on 1,300 feet from our altitude. Let's just shallow it out a little bit, because why not? So again, when we hit Seal Beach in 8 miles, and we're 1,000 away, when we hit Seal Beach, we are going to turn to 049. We're going to track the 049 outbound until we intercept the localizer. We will turn to 016, and we will follow that localizer outbound until we get to well, we'll fly it out for 1 minute because it's a 1 minute pattern, and then we'll do our parallel hold entry, etc., etc., etc. I'm going to correct a little bit to get us back on the track. In a second, we're going to level, and I've shallowed out the descent just a little bit to make it nice and comfy for our paying customers. And we don't really have to slow yet, so I'm just going to bring the power up a bit. Once I get into the hold, I'm going to want to hold at 200 knots, and when I come out of the hold, I'm going to want to drop my first notch of flaps and slow to about 190, then bring in the gear just a little bit later in the approach. We're a little high, so I can descend a little bit faster, and I'll come off the power a bit. And as we get to Seal Beach, you can see we just got blown a little bit through the radial, so we'll correct a bit. Although at this point it is a little bit academic because we're coming over it, so let's turn to 049. We'll make it a little bit more. And we'll flip over our nav source to nav 1. And there's our localizer. And we're a ways away from it now, but we're going to fly this heading for a second. And we will fly the 049 radial too, if we possibly can. We'll get as close to it as we can. And that's starting to come in. We'll follow that outbound until the CDI here gets about a dot away, at which point we will turn to 016, and with any luck perfectly track the localizer outbound and enter our hold. We're at 4,000, we're at 230 knots, that's good. Our power is fine, everything is cool, and again, in the name of getting configured early, We'll configure for a reduced noise profile landing, move the condition levers forward. And now, since we're almost on the 049, as you can see right here, we're not doing too bad. And there is our CDI, so let's move to intercept. We'll intercept just a little bit early. No, actually we'll do it just about perfect. Correcting for the wind, which is blowing us a little bit to our left. So instead of 049, we'll come in on about 051, and that should keep us on the 049. We will wait till this gets a dot away, and then we'll do our half standard turn to 016, and into the hold we'll go. I'll get 3500 programmed into the box. We'll do our descent in the hold. And just to confirm, we can do 3500 at Sager and 3400 at Snake, which is right there. And we can descend to 2800 here. You can see at the moment we are above the glide slope, but we are slowly climbing below it. Fix our rudder trim just a little bit. Very quickly change our bleeds to min now. Everything else is as it should be. And now all we do is wait for the CDI to come in, and then we'll play spin the hold. And we're just making ready with our clock here. It's going to be a 1 minute hold, and here comes the CDI.
2500.
And we're above terrain, obviously. Alright, so let's turn to 016 right about now. See if we can intercept this cleanly. Probably not. Ah, not bad. Not too shabby. And we're at about 049, which is where we should be. And so as soon as we get turned and established here, we'll give it one more second. We'll start our clock and we'll do a minute outbound. Okay, we're ever so slightly to the left, but we're on the protected side of the hold, so here we go. Okay. Let's try and track this the best we can going out now that we pretty much are on the 016. At this point, let's also descend to 3500 gently, because we've got a whole lap around this hold. Okay, we're 30 seconds in, At 1 minute, we will spin back around to 196 minus about 30, so we can re-intercept our 196 inbound. Okay, 55 seconds. Let's slow to 200. We'll slow almost to 200 because we're not level yet. And there's 1 minute, so around we go. And again, this is a parallel entry. We're making a left turn into a right-hand holding pattern. And you can see right here we are considerably below the glide slope, which is fine. And you can see from our radio altimeter that we're about 2,450 feet above the real ground. And again, we're looking for the ILS. We're looking to intercept the localizer inbound to fly one loop around this hold. And it looks like we're setting up a pretty decent intercept. And we're just ever so gently slowing. Ultimately, we want to get down to 200. Might as well set my V ref, which is going to be, because the flaps and the conditions and all the rest, it's going to be at about 126. Alright, so we're setting up to intercept the localizer for our hold. And here we come. And there we are. We'll get quickly reestablished, and then we will fly about a minute on this, although I probably want to fly long enough to get back to Sager. So here we go. Alright, it is, as they say, close enough for government work. We're just slightly to the left of the protected side, but we're less than a mile. We're less than a bar of deviation, so we're still safe, and we're still legal. Let's just quickly get reestablished. And we're flying inbound right now, so let's quickly turn outbound and do that for about a minute and a half. Again, we're going to turn to 016. And now it's right turns, which is as intended. So we're turning outbound again, and what we'll be doing is we'll be looking for about the 035, 029 radial. And again, we're on the well, it depends on whether you're coming inbound or out. If you're coming inbound, we're on the right side of the hold, which is the protected side, and that's where we're supposed to be. If you're looking with the chart north, we're on the left side, which is where we're supposed to be. And if you can see from the CDI and the course indicator, we are flying outbound to the left side, which is the protected side of the hold. So let's fly that for a minute. And then we will leisurely turn ourselves back inbound. We will intercept the localizer and we will fly the instrument approach. Again, we'll initially be looking for 060, at which point we can go down to 2800. And then 2200, and then we can basically intercept the glide slope and try and land this sucker. Trimming again with the rudder, and here we go. Back inbound. Again, a right turn. And what we will do this time is, instead of turning to 196, we will probably turn to a little bit less and simply intercept, which should be more or less right about here. But it's a reasonably close pattern, so we should probably make the intercept about 15 degrees, because as we make this turn, we are going to get very, very close to the track anyway. So you can see the needles moving already. So it may just be at the rate that we're turning, we are going to be intercepting reasonably quickly. So we might just end up turning our heading to 196, and by the time we get there, we'll be close to established, and I think we will be. Close. Our actual intercept angle looks like it's going to be about 5 degrees. Alright, so we're initially looking for 049, and we are right now at 049. So we can come down to 3400. Which we will. Our next stop is going to be 060, at which point we can come down to 2800. As we struggle to get established on the loc. Reduce our power and put in our first notch of flaps. And we're coming up on 060. So what I'm going to do is spin us down to 2800 and start to descend. And I'm already chasing the needle, as you can see. We'll put out our first notch of flaps. I'm just going to stick to 194 until we re-intercept. That should do it. That will not do it, so. And here comes the glide slope. We're 1 dot off. And we're coming back in. And I'm going to reduce to my descent power, which is about 17% torque. And I'll throw out our gear, because I can't lower my flaps anymore until the gear does come down. Hold our altitude right here, and that will slow us down. I am more or less on the localizer right now. Making tiny corrections right now to stay on it. I'm looking to get below 172, then I can drop the rest of my flaps. At which point, here comes the glide slope. Here come my flaps, and I will rush up probably a little bit to meet the glide slope. Okay, flaps 15, and I'm going to be looking for about 130 knots as my VAP. And now we can start to go down. Getting a little bit off the loc. Pretty good on the glide path. Reasonably stable. Slow just a little bit. Bring my descent down just a little bit. Correct on the localizer just a tad. Blown a little bit from the right. Getting blown a little bit from all directions. And 800 to go till minimums. I'm right on speed. Just a little bit to the right of the loc. Correcting on that. Okay, locust coming back in. Just a little bit high. And I am going to fly this. Just briefly let auto have its way, and I'm just going to disconnect right now.
500.
And pretend I'm a pilot. And there are the runway lights. And
Plus 100.
look at that. We're red over white. We're on speed. We're on profile.
Minimums. Minimums.
Just going to slow a little bit.
Flaps. 100. 50. 40. 30. 20. 10.
Oh, and look at that. Sweet and meaty. Take the first turnoff we can. Ah, ho 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 ho. And I think we are going to GA right here, because if anything was worthy of the Lyon Air Museum, it was that approach. Quickly turn the APU on. Turn off our lights, not blind anybody. And turn off the rest. Keep the position lights on, turn off our heats. Into taxi, kill our caution, up come the flaps. Props go to start and feather. Pumps come off. We free the animals. We've started a timer looking for 30 seconds to let the engines cool off. 30 seconds being up, we shut off one. We open the door. We kick people out into the cold and the rain. We shut down 2. And at this point we say we hope you enjoyed the flight. I hope you learned something from it. I hope you enjoyed the plane and the approach and all the rest of it. And if you did, please hit like. And if you want, I'd love to hear from you. And if you've got any critiques, any advice, anything at all, I'd really like to hear from you. And we'll see you next time.